Now we need to make the Christmas tree that goes with our Kris Kringle. So there are two types of Christmas trees. There is one that has a round base that you are going to sew onto the bottom of the Christmas tree, and it creates a 3D Christmas tree. And then there is the flat Christmas tree, which has the stem integrated in with the design, so it's more flat, easier to make, and doesn't require a sewing machine. Each type of Christmas tree also has an ornament ball version as well as a string light version, so you have lots of choices, and I'm going to show you how to construct both. And the first one that we're going to start with is the 3D Christmas tree, and we're going to do the string version. So you're going to load the file, and you're going to stitch the die line or the placement line on a piece of medium tearaway stabilizer. And then next we're just going to cut 2 pieces of fabric. I'm using the Shannon Luxe Cuddle, and I'm not sure of the color, but it's not a bright green, it's more of like a sage muted green. It's really pretty. And it has this marbled effect. So then here is our area, and because there's a lot of heavy embroidery work, I'm just going to spray temporary adhesive on the stabilizer and put a scrap of stabilizer down, just so that we don't have any puckering issues. And then I'm going to spray some more. Put the fabric centered. What I like about this minky fabric is there's really not a right or wrong nap. If you get it wrong, it's not a big deal. Alright, so we're going to place this down. And because this fabric does not do very well with being taped in place, I am going to pin it in place, and that's because there's a lot of heavy embroidery and we don't want it to pull and suck the fabric towards the center of the hoop. So let's get some of these. Okay, now that I have that pinned in place, I'm just going to, I've cut a piece of the water sealable topper to put over the Christmas tree. And the reason we do this is because this is a piled fabric, and our design would sink down into the stitches and not look very nice. And I'm just going to tape that in place. Okay, now we'll take that back to the embroidery machine, and we're going to stitch the black line for the string lights as well as all of the colors of the bulbs. Here's our first panel of the Christmas tree with the string lights. Remember, the other version has ball ornaments, so we're just going to remove. So what stitched was the line, and then all the colors. I believe there were 4 or 5 colors, and then the rectangle stitched in the corners. So we're just going to remove this. And let's remove the pins. And now we're just going to remove the entire stabilizer with the fabric on it from the hoop, just like this. And this is what the back looks like. We're going to flip this over and we're going to trim around it. I'm just going to follow the fabric around. The most important thing is to leave this outer box that goes around with the alignment rectangles. Now we're just going to set this trimmed panel aside. And here is the second part of the 3D Christmas tree. And it's going to be the, there's going to be 3 parts. So we're just going to start with this hooping by spraying some temporary adhesive on the stabilizer. And then we're going to put a scrap of stabilizer down because of that heavy embroidery. And we're going to be placing our second piece of fabric so it covers just like we did the first. So we're just repeating all those steps. Here is the all over tack down line as well as our 4 alignment rectangles. So now we'll just stitch the string for the lights and all of the light colors. We have stitched the string and then all the Christmas lights on the second part of our Christmas tree. So I'm going to take the caps off of these tacks, but I'm not going to remove the tacks just yet. But we are going to remove the water sealable topper. Now we're going to need the part 1 for our Christmas tree, and we are going to place it right side down just like this, and we are going to align the rectangles. We already have the tacks in place. I'm actually going to move those. I'm going to put them in the rectangles because that's what I want to align perfectly. So yeah, we need to move these and put them in each rectangle. So what I'll do is I'll put it in the corner, outside corner, probably here on this one, to keep it away from the final tack down line. And then if it's in the corner of this rectangle, it's going to be in the corner of that rectangle. So it'll be perfectly aligned. Now we're going to go to the embroidery machine and we're going to stitch the final tack down line. Here is the final tack down line, and there'll be a gap here and a gap all the way across the bottom on the 3D Christmas tree. So we're just going to remove these pins, and then we are going to remove our Christmas tree. Try to keep the bottom stabilizer here at this line in place because we need that as a reference for trimming this fabric. Okay, now we have removed this from the stabilizer and we're just going to trim the fabric along this line about 1/8 of an inch away from it. Now we're just going to trim around it, and I'm going to do it on this side because here's the opening. You can see where the stitching ends right here, and then it picks up right there. So I'm actually going to go ahead and trim it to those lines so I don't accidentally cut over them. And then I'll just continue cutting out the Christmas tree. And now I'm just going to remove the stabilizer from inside the design. Now it should look something like this. We're not going to turn it right side out yet because we still have one more piece to make, and that is the base for our Christmas tree. So the 3D version is going to have a round base with the trunk, and it's integrated in with that. And so this tree looks kind of wide right now, but by the time we sew the piece to the inside, it's going to be a lot smaller. It's going to be a lot more narrow. Now you could skip stitching the lights or the ornaments, and you could have a plain tree, and you could just decorate it with your own LED lights or fairy lights if you wanted to. For the plain Christmas tree that you can decorate on your own with 3D elements like this, we're going to stitch the placement line on a new piece of stabilizer and cut 2 pieces of fabric that will generously cover the outline. Now we will spray some adhesive. And we'll place this on stabilizer, covering the outline, and we're going to stitch a box here, and this is optional, so I would only stitch the box if you are using actual fairy lights. Otherwise you would skip that step. So I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to stitch the outline for the box. Now we just need a scrap of minky, and I would only recommend this for fleece and minky. And this works really well because the fur will hide the raw seams. So we're just going to place it right side down and cover the box. I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch the tack down line. Here is the tack down line, and it only goes on 3 sides. So now all we're going to do is use our scissors, and we're just going to trim the excess fabric away along the seam. And then I'm going to trim straight across the opening. Just like that. Now we're just going to take our second piece of fabric and we're going to place it right side down and stitch the final tack down line. Here is the final tack down line. Now we're just going to remove it from the stabilizer. Making sure that we get that bottom line. This is part 3 of the 3D Christmas tree. So you're going to have this box stitch on your stabilizer as the first step, and as a placement on. And I want you to notice this opening right here. So that's important because that tells you that you're going to put all of your brown fabric over here and all of your green fabric over here. There's a reason for that. So I'm going to have the nap go this way. And so what you want to do is you want to cut 2 pieces of brown fabric that will generously cover this half of the box. And then you want to have 2 pieces of green fabric to generously cover this half of the box. And I did find out what color this minky is. So I have a flat cuddle minky, and then I have the luxe marble minky, and the color is spearmint. So in case you're wondering, that's the color that I bought. So it's spearmint. It's a very pretty piney green color, or like for a spruce or a fir tree, something that kind of is muted and not so in your face lime green. So we're going to take some spray adhesive and spray it on the stabilizer, and then we're going to place our brown fabric so that it overlaps this line by 1/2 inch. So we're just going to place it just like that. Now we're going to take our green fabric and we're going to place it so the nap is going this way as well, and we're going to place it right side down. So these are going to be right sides together, right like this, so they both overlap that line, and we're going to tape them in place. All right, now we're going to take it to the embroidery machine and we're going to stitch a tack down line. I'm back from the embroidery machine and I have stitched this tack down line, so I'm just going to remove the tape, and then we are going to trim the fabric along this tack down line. Alright, so now we are actually going to remove the fabric from the stabilizer. So now that we've trimmed it, I'm just going to snip this little thread at the beginning so that it releases like so. Okay, now we have the fabric removed from the stabilizer, and we're going to place a piece of tape over this line so we can keep using the hooping. So I'm just going to place tape here, and I'm also going to put a scrap of stabilizer on the back side. Now we need our second piece of green and brown fabric. So here's the first, and it's sewn together. We're just going to put it to the side. And I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to actually draw it on the stabilizer here. You'll be able to see it, but you'll see where the original thread was when we did our overall first color on the machine. It's been removed now because it came up with this fabric, but you'll be able to see the holes and where it was. So we're just going to take our second piece of brown fabric. Let's put some fresh glue on the hoop, and we're just going to overlap that line by 1/2 inch like this. Smooth it into place. And then we're going to take the second piece of green fabric, just like we did earlier, and place it right side down, and we're going to tape that in place. All right, now we're going to head over to the machine, and we're going to stitch a tack down line. Here is that next tack down line, so we're just going to loosen the tape again and trim the fabric next to this tack down line. Spray some temporary spray adhesive on this side. And now we are going to take the top layer of fabric and unfold it like so, and smooth it down very well. Now we need the first panel of fabric that we removed from the stabilizer, and we are going to put it right side down, and we are going to align this seam on each side. All right, now everything is aligned. Make sure that your brown fabric is on this side and your green fabric is on this side when you take it back to the hoop. And we are going to stitch a tack down line. All right, I went to the machine and I stitched a tack down line. So what it did is it went along this seam here, so right next to it, and then it cuts up to form the trunk, and then comes back across here. So now we're just going to remove all the tape and the pins, and we're going to trim the fabric on the brown side. So you're going to have some brown fabric on each side. Don't worry about that. It's not going to show. You can trim away any if you have excess. All right, so now let me just make sure this is trimmed very well here. Now we're going to spray temporary adhesive. If that side feels sticky, I'm going to put some more on this side. All right. Now we're going to take the top layer of fabric and we are going to unfold it like so and smooth it to the stabilizer. You can see no brown fabric is showing here. So that is what we want. So now you should have something that looks like this. We're going to take it back to the embroidery machine and we are going to stitch the final tack down for this hooping. Here is the final tack down line. Notice it doesn't go across this portion here. There's a reason for that, and that's because the trunk of our tree is there. So we're going to remove it from the stabilizer and trim around it. Now I'm going to flip the trunk to the other side, and I'm going to kind of fill in the shape in my mind because the line is missing. So you can draw it if you want to, so you don't make any mistakes, but you're just going to imagine that the line is there and just trim around. Now I'm just going to pin it to the bottom of the tree and stitch it on the sewing machine. Okay, I'm back from the sewing machine, and now it's time to turn our Christmas tree right side out, but I wanted to show you, I used black thread so you could see better. So the white line is what I did on the embroidery machine, and the black line is my stitch line. So I got pretty close right here, but everything else is for sure on this side. So now we're just going to turn it right side out. I actually want to turn the trunk first. I'm going to do princess, and you want to pull the trunk through, and I turn the rest of the Christmas tree. Alright, so let's just proceed with stuffing. I'm actually going to stuff the trunk first. So this is a very fluffy Christmas tree. Here we go. And I'm going to use probably some hemostats to make sure I get the stuffing into the trunk. Alright, there's our Christmas tree stuffed. It's super adorable. And now all we need to do is just ladder stitch this opening shut here on the side. See how Santa looks with his little Christmas tree. Super cute. Now let's talk about our flat or our 2D Christmas tree. So you're going to stitch the placement lines on a new piece of stabilizer, and you're going to cut 2 pieces of fabric to cover this outline. And I'm just going to take one here, and I'm going to spray some temporary pieces. And actually we need to cut a piece of temporary or a scrap of stabilizer. So let me get a scrap here really quick. Alright, and I'm just going to place it on the glue like so. And then we're going to put more stabilizer or temporary glue down. Now we will put our fabric right side up and smooth it. And I am going to use these tacks. We're going to head to the machine and we're going to stitch 4 alignment rectangles. That's going to be our next step. Alright, well, I have stitched those 4 alignment rectangles, and I was watching my machine and it did get close to my pins, so I had to move them out. So I just want to make you aware of that, and you should be able to look on the back side of your hoop, and you just want to make sure you're well outside of this outer line that goes all the way around. As long as you're outside of that line, you can pin in those areas and you don't have to worry about your machine striking your pins. So the next step is we are going to place a piece of water sealable topper over our Christmas tree, like so. I'm actually going to use this piece. And we're just going to tape it in place. And I also just wanted to take a moment to say, you don't have to stitch the embroidered string lights or the ornaments that we're about to do, because I found some interesting things on Amazon. I thought I would show them to you. So I picked up this pack of fake string lights, and they're these teeny tiny lights. And I think it was like, I can't remember the price. It might have been like $9 for all 3. So it has lights with a black string, with a gold string, and with a looks like a brown string. So you literally after you make your Christmas tree, isn't this adorable? They're like so perfect. They don't light up or anything, but you could sew these on. Wouldn't that be just precious? I just love that. That's super cute. It almost makes me want to do it with this one. I might have to do that. I think I'm gonna skip the embroidered ornaments. So just know they're gonna be like your string lights that are embroidered. There's gonna be like 5 colors. And then each of the little ornament balls is going to have like a little highlight, a white highlight on it. But I think I'm going to stitch these to my Christmas tree, because this is just stinking adorable. And it's super cheap, and you get a whole bunch of it. I'm not sure. It just says that it's a 3-pack. But I think it was like 30 feet of each color, 20 or 30 feet. I'm totally guessing here. So this is an option. You could also hand sew, obviously not these, but you could sew colored buttons on as your ornaments. That would be super cute. You could just go through one of the holes so that the ornaments actually dangle. That would be very cute. And you could use upholstery thread so that you literally could just take like 1 or 2 stitches and be done. You wouldn't have to like really like super duper hand sew these things on. So the upholstery thread could help with that. Or you could pick up a pack of these disposable battery powered, I believe they are. Looks like I have some tape here. So I picked these up. It would be nicer if you could get it with a clear wire. But this is a 3-foot light. And it's meant to be for crafts, and they're disposable. Look at this teeny tiny screwdriver. Oh my goodness. What the heck? That is like super adorable. But you could sew these onto your Christmas tree. Now, obviously you wouldn't want to give this to a small child because it would be not safe for them. But imagine this on your Christmas tree. So now I don't know what choice I'm gonna make. I could stitch these on. That is really, I think I actually am going to stitch these on. I mean, the choices are just endless here, but I just think these are super duper adorable. I just love this so much. I love this idea as well. And like I said, it's only 3 feet. So, you know, you would just literally just take some thread and you would just stitch on the seam. And so you would, maybe you would hide this inside where in the side seam where it would get stuffed. I'm not sure about that. I'll figure out something when I make this tree. But yeah, you would just start over here and just go around the tree and just stitch here and here, here and here, back and forth. But you would go all the way around your tree. So that would be super cute too. And you might could even get some better ones that it looks like you can still change the battery. That's why they give you this like teeny tiny screwdriver. So technically speaking, you could take this apart and change out the battery if you wanted to. So yep, I think I'm gonna actually use this. I think this is really adorable. Alright, so the next step after stitching all your ornaments with the little highlights, and by the way, there's 4 colors of ornaments, so there'll be 4 colors plus the highlights on each of your ornaments. So that makes it 5 colors that's coming up. I'm gonna skip those, but you would stitch them if you're doing that with the water sealable topper on. And then let's pretend that I've done that. And so now we're going to go back to the machine and we are going to stitch a placement line for the trunk. So we're going to do that next. So the next step that's stitched is this placement line, and that's for our tree trunk fabric. So we're going to cut a piece of fabric to cover that. Make sure our stretch is going. By the way, all the stretch for the fabrics for the Christmas trees needs to be from side to side, not top to bottom. So I'm just going to cut. I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces of this because I know I'm going to need one for the front and one for the back. So there's our pieces. Alright, so I'm just going to make sure that the nap of this is going down, and I'm going to place it right side down so it overlaps this line here, like so. And then I'm going to tape that in place. Alright, now we have that taped in place. We're going to take this to the embroidery machine and we're going to stitch a tack down line for the trunk. Here is that tack down line, so I'm just going to remove the tape. And I'm going to trim the fabric on this side, just the brown fabric, like so. Let's just remove our pins, and then we are going to unhoop the stabilizer, but we're going to leave the fabric attached to the stabilizer. I'm just going to set this aside for 1 second while I hoop a new piece of stabilizer. Alright, this is part 2, and here is the outline that I've stitched, and I just need my fabric. I'm going to spray some temporary spray adhesive, and if you were stitching one of the like string lights or ornaments, the embroidered ones, you would want to put down a scrap of stabilizer. So you want to place your fabric right side up, and then we're going to go over to the machine, and we are going to stitch an all over tack down line in the 4 alignment rectangles. I'm not going to pin it in place because there's no embroidery yet, so go ahead and do that now. So I have stitched the 4 alignment rectangles in the all over tack down stitch, and then I skipped all of the ornaments and the highlights on the ornaments. The next thing that is going to stitch is this placement line here. So we're going to take our other piece of brown fabric, and we are going to place it, making sure we pay attention to the nap. We're going to place it so it overlaps this line by 1/2 an inch, and we're going to tape it in place. Alright, I'm going to head to the embroidery machine, and I'm going to stitch a tack down line. Here is that tack down line that I did on the machine. So now I'm just going to trim the fabric right here close to the tack down line, and I'm only going to trim the brown fabric like so. And I'm actually going to even angle a little bit like that. I'm going to spray temporary adhesive here on the stabilizer, and then I'm going to unfold the fabric and smooth it in place. This was the first panel that we made, so we're just going to trim the fabric around, or actually the stabilizer. We're going to trim the stabilizer. Okay, it should look like this. Here is the first panel, here is the second part, and we're just going to place this right side down. And we are going to align the rectangles, and I'm going to pin them in place. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull on this piece of fabric, and I'm going to pin it down here along the edge just so it doesn't move or get ruffled. I'm going to head over to the embroidery machine and stitch the final tack down line. Alright, I went ahead and stitched the final tack down line, which goes all the way around. So I'm just going to remove all the pins. And we are going to remove it from the hoop. We've removed it from the stabilizer, and I'm just going to cut this interior shape out of the trunk on both sides. We're going to trim around our Christmas tree about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to turn it right side out.